Man, listen. Man, listen. You already know what honking time it is. I don't gotta say it. Doesn't need to be said. We can say it anyway. You know. I personally like to have faith in my fellow Spartans. You know? But you already know what the deal is. We are back. Obscenely late as usual. But we're back. And you already know what time it is. It is the time. The time to play some more Halo. We are 5. Is that 5? Yeah, look at that. Okay. We are 6 missions because I've beaten 5. So we are halfway through Reach. I could not be more excited. I mean, these missions so far have been... it's very weird because Reach is telling a good story. I feel like so much of it is told at the ground floor that as a viewer, I don't think you really get to appreciate just how rich... I think it's really good storytelling. It's okay. It's... Okay, this is hard. This is hard. My brain hurts. Hold on. Wait. All right, there we go. So, yeah. So, unlike the original Halo, I don't want to call it a quintology because ODST is technically... ODST is technically like a side story. Kind of like a limited series. And Halo Reach is a prequel outside the main trilogy that doesn't star any of the original trilogy's characters, with the exception of like maybe Dr. Halsey. But again, Halo is so far removed from that time period as a whole. Like Master Chief, I don't even think was born yet. Okay? No, I think he was. He's out there somewhere. Yeah, he's out there somewhere. But no, like, you know, this is very, you know, it's very precursory. You're getting a lot of early Halo lore, so it doesn't quite have the scope of the Halo franchise because the Halos have not been revealed yet. You know, this isn't like a galaxy-spanning story. This is really like centered around Reach and the Spartans and, you know, the initial Covenant invaders, and you know, it's very, the conflict is very small at this point. You know, the Spartan program obviously has already gone down. It's definitely somewhere in Master Chief's time. I feel like it has to be, even though, and I guess I'll do my research a little bit before we finish, but Bungie has taken some liberties with the Fall of Reach lore and canon, which blows my mind because part of, you know, what made Eric Nyland's original novel such a gem, like part of what made his original novel so impactful and so rich and so I want to use the word appreciable, but I know that's not the right word. I appreciated it. But what I'm trying to say is that in terms of world building, we weren't exactly in like the kind of common headspace where games normally had lore that would span across multiple forms of media. Very few games did that. Like Dead Space is infamous for that, but you're talking about like a company like EA that has the resources to do that, you know. So Microsoft really blowing out the Halo universe, you know, books, movies, TV shows, short cartoons, and, you know, ARGs from Bungie because they just love doing shit like that. You know, part of what made Halo Reach such a vital piece, that's the word I was looking for, vital. Such a vital piece of Halo's storytelling because it's essentially the backstory of the Master Chief, Petty Officer, the man we know as John 117, was that they gave Eric Nyland the Bible. And if you know anything about Bungie, say what you want about their to say the least. Management issues. But when Bungie tells a story, and, I guess this is just indicative of the Joe Staten era, all of it, you had a story. You had a Bible. I would love to have seen physically what the Halo Bible looked like. But my point being is that when Joe Staten writes a story, okay, and this is why I'm kind of excited for Halo Infinite, because my man writes a story, okay? Destiny's bad storytelling is not the fault of Joe Staten. It's the fault of Bungie upper management. Because we've read the Destiny Bible. That's what the fucking Grimoire is. The Grimoire is all of the Destiny lore and story Bible that Bungie just casually decided to throw out because they did not trust the intelligence of their audience to be able to appreciate a nuanced, deep sci-fi story with dark elements. Like Halo. Yeah, because we had proven by that point that the story was the least important thing about why we enjoyed Halo. Fuck. So, tangent aside, that's to say that even though Eric Nyland, by all accounts and purposes, had the Bungie stamp of approval, used the actual Halo Bible. So there's like zero inaccuracies to be had in his novel. Bungie still took a couple of liberties with the story and lore to do Halo Reach. I understand that they may need to tell the story of Noble Six, but, and it's a great story to watch. But if you've read the novel The Fall of Reach, there are little discrepancies that may, break your brain a little bit. And it's fine. Like the whole thing of, I find the fact that they have shields kind of weird and questionable because from what I know, again, in The Fall of Reach, I remember in The Fall of Reach, it actually details the mission that the Master Chief went on when they originally stole the Covenant shield tech and took it back to UNSC in order to research it and get it integrated into the Spartan armor. Prior to Spartans discovering the shield tech, plasma weapons would actually melt through the armor and cause horrific injuries if it didn't just outright kill people. I mean, they're plasma weapons. They melt through, and it's like the Covenant have guns filled with hydrochloric acid, and the suits of the Spartans does not say LDPA on it. So there are many horrific accounts of needlers getting stuck in people and shattering inside their bodies and having to be patched up with medical foam, people getting shot with plasma weapons and having it melt through the armor and fusing the armor and the inner layer of the bodysuit to the skin. And I'm just in a way that would require extensive grafts. And I'm just sitting there ugh. The first Spartans had it bad. But it took them a while. I think they were probably up to the Mark IV or the Mark III. I think the Mark IV. I might be mistaken again. But I think the Mark IV was the first suit that had shields in it. By the time you reach Master Chief, I think he has either the Mark IV or the Mark V suit. Of course, the suit has been upgraded throughout the years. We're going to forget what Halo 5 Guardians did to the Master Chief suit. I think it's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. There is a point where you become too detailed. It's just too detailed to the point where Master Chief just looks gross. Anyway, but yeah, like I was saying, Bungie took liberties, and it's Bungie's story, so, are you going to argue with them? That's what's his face? The director of Terminator Dark Fate. What was his name again? Tim something. Terminator Dark Fate. They're having a Dark Fate. What is it? Tim Miller. There we go. Yeah, Tim Miller. It's like Tim Miller arguing with James Cameron about what to do with the Terminator franchise. I'm not going to do that. So when Bungie's like, what? They have shields. And what? These Covenant do this. And what? Yeah, that's a DMR. Mm-hmm. What about it? And I'm just sitting there like, aight. I'm not going to tell them. I'm not going to be like, hey, but the fall of Reach. No. Hey, Bungie wants to fuck around with their own lore. Let them do it. Because for every moment that they do kind of fuck around with the lore like this, there are other moments that I genuinely appreciate, like the fact that the grunts are unintelligible, and I love that because it was a point of contention in the Halo novels that they could not understand the Covenant because their dialect, there was just not enough to work off of. But through the efforts of like AIs and recordings, and they would eventually get to a point of sophistication where it could at least translate the grunts' speech. And I love that being reflected in the lore because in the original Halo Combat Evolved, the only characters you can understand are the grunts. They're the only ones that are seemingly speaking English and being little shitheads. And you think that's because, oh, they must be the smallest ones, so maybe no. It's because you have translators in your helmet that can decode their speech. Which is why, canonically, and I love this, in Halo 2, you can hear the elites speaking English, and while you might say, oh man, yay, they got a bigger budget, now we're going to tell a story with the elites, so you have to understand what they're saying. You know, if you can't have a dramatic scene with a big blue monster going and expect to take it seriously, and plus that Keith David voice on the Arbiter. But canonically, you could also say that their translators have gotten sophisticated enough to the point where they can translate the elite speech. Because all of the elites in Halo 2 speak English, and it's fucking weird. There's no more Nope. No more They speak English until the series ends. And then, you know, you get to Tartarus, and you get to... And again, and Truth. The only characters in Halo canon who I genuinely believe are speaking English are the Gravemind, the Prophets, including Truth himself, and no, that's really it. Just the Gravemind and the Prophets, and maybe the Brutes, maybe. But I feel like the Brutes are too close to the human genome for them to like be like, oh well, if they're advanced enough to do this, then maybe they've speak tongues. But I feel like English is an Earth endemic language. So I'm just going to go with the translators can just pick up on brute speech by the time you get to Halo 3. And that's how I feels about it. Even though you can understand Tartarus, I've never felt like I could understand Tartarus in the context of playing as the Master Chief. I felt like I could always just understand Tartarus because he's in a cutscene. And again, if you had a giant monkey go, you'd be like, huh? The fuck is that monkey saying? Anyway, I know this menu's gorgeous, but we got to get back into this. Let's go, Halo Reach. You know you've gone on too long when your controller turns off. Let's go, Halo Reach. Whatever like I said, Marty O'Donnell was just leaning into those guitars. Ever since Steve Vai killed the Halo 2 theme with that guitar solo, Marty's like, guitars everywhere. Electric guitars everywhere. Like, I was an acoustic man, but then they gave me them tars. I did not mean to do that.
Hostile. Hostile in my sight. Enemy transport on approach.
I know those are Covenant ships. But again, Bungie's design sensibilities tend to track so similarly through their titles. It's just funny to see those things up there and think, wow, that looks really familiar. In fact, there's a level. There's legit a level in there's a level in, I believe, Halo Infinite. Yeah, there's a level in, I believe, Halo Infinite where it's just like, there's clearly like a Cabal drill just casually sitting in the middle of the level, And I'm like, do these guys know that like that it looks like this? Sorry, give me a second.